Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dating While Black. Today's episode, we're discussing dating while Black and fatphobia. I'm very happy and excited to be welcoming Morgan Hopkins to our show. She's been a panelist several times, and now it's time for her to take a leap of faith and kind of lead the conversation and dialogue on this. So that's all for today from my end, and thank you guys so much for joining us today.
So, hi. Hi, everyone. My name's Morgan, like Kat said, and I will be the guest host today. So these are my great friends. And then we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is very near and dear to my heart. So a lot of people define fatphobia in like a different kind of way. And Google calls it an irrational fear of, an aversion to, or discrimination against obesity and people with obesity. So I just want to start with like asking the panelists, what do you guys define as fatphobia? Like, how have you seen it in your life? How is it manifested? Things like that.
I could go. I would say that fatphobia is, like you said, the Google definition, where people have an aversion to people who are overweight or obese. But I think that especially in like just Western society being so whitewashed, that the standard of beauty in the West, especially in America, is that of a skinny white woman. And obviously, fatphobia affects people of all ethnicities and backgrounds, but it's especially difficult for Black women and women of color because, my body type, even when I'm, in a healthy state, is never going to be skinny. So, I've experienced fatphobia when I've been overweight, when I've been fat, and even when I'm at a healthy state, simply because, I have a curvy body type. And so I think that it's more difficult to talk about fatphobia because there are people that experience fatphobia or experience judgment and discrimination for doing things or looking a certain way, and they're not even actually a part of the fat community, which I think actually erases women who are fat and who deserve representation, and they're not even being represented because the biggest models that we have right now, thank God that we have more curve models right now, but like the biggest models that we have right now that are plus sized are like a size 12, and a size 12 is not plus sized. So I think that our entire society is fatphobic, even to normal sized women.
I'll go. Just to piggyback off of everything you said, because I think that was very, very like eloquently said, like, yes, like that's what it is. But I also would like to say, like, it's like when I, from Morgan's definition, when I just did my research on it, like, it's just a fear, that people have, that people are scared to like approach someone or, be with someone who is bigger. And it's sad, especially in the dating scene, because like you see so many men talking about that they have, bigger women, but to the side, or they don't bring them up to the light. So I think that's the thing that, fatphobia also is. It's people being scared to really show what they like or really show who they are. Because just like you said, my body type is not meant to be skinny. And like, that's one thing that like, we need to talk about more. Like, it's okay to not be a size 5. Like, it's okay to be a size 12. It's okay to be a size 15. So that's what fatphobia is to me.
Okay, since I'm last, I'll go. Well, yeah, I totally relate to everything. I feel like fatphobia for me personally, like it relates to everything that you guys said, especially because like my personal experience with it is growing up in like, Westchester, New York, in the suburbs, and like going to school surrounded by people who have like a completely different body type from me. And like, even though I wouldn't consider myself like a fat person, I still experienced fat phobia from having a different like curvier body type, you know what I mean? So yeah.
So going off kind of like what you all said and putting that all together, would you consider fat a bad word? Or like, would you refer to yourself as fat? Because I know I personally, I'd be like, I'm fat. You'll be like, oh my God, no, you're not, you're beautiful. And I'm like, you're right, I am beautiful, but I'm also fat.
Mhm,
So,
yeah.
like, how, like, in your personal, like, everyday, do you consider fat to be kind of a negative stereotype? Or how do you kind of approach the word fat in itself?
Did you want to?
Yeah, I can start. I consider fat to be a negative word just because I was called it a lot growing up, and I know it didn't come from a nice place. So I always associated the word fat to have a negative connotation. So just for like personal use, I try not to use the word just because I know it's meant to like tear people down and make people feel like bad. Of course, I know that I'm not the smallest person on the planet. So I just try to find other words to describe myself in ways that will make me feel better and still acknowledge that I am what I am. But I don't prefer the word fat at all.
Yeah, I agree to that. I personally do not like the word. I don't like to be referred to as the word. I don't like for other people to refer other people to as the word. Although some women and men do feel comfortable like that. I just personally don't. Just as like Shay, like it was used in such a negative although it doesn't have to be derogatory. For example, I don't want to make this like racial, but just like black was used as a derogatory term, and now we flipped it around to make black positive. If you search up black and white in a dictionary, it's two totally different things. And I feel that's how socially in our social black atmosphere, that's how it is with skinny and fat. Skinny is not seen as a derogatory term, in my personal opinion, from how I see it used on social media. Although I do know that people, some people who are skinnier do go through stuff as well, just like people who are thicker, people who are fat. So like that's something to, but yeah, I personally just don't.
I personally don't consider the word fat to be a negative word. Obviously, I totally agree with what both of you guys said because I mean, I feel like we've all experienced people like bullying us or making comments about our weight at some point. So like the word fat does still like have a hurtful tinge to it for me personally, just because of what I've experienced like from childhood and my adolescence. But I think that, fat just in the literal term of the word means someone who is, usually it's referring to someone who is obese, which is a technical terminology. Obviously, like people see obesity as a health problem and therefore have a negative connotation. But to me, I also see someone who is skinny and that's not their natural build as, also has a connotation that it's unhealthy too. So like I see them both as kind of like negative words. Obviously in our culture, skinny is seen as like, oh, it's a good thing to be skinny. I personally do not, no offense to the skinny girl community, but there are women in my life who are obese and who are plus sized and they're proud of calling themselves fat. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that if anything, it's offensive to call women who are overweight but not obese fat, because then that erases people who are actually a part of the fat community and that they deserve, like if you're actually going to give a platform and space for women who are fat, then like, calling someone who's like a size 16 or a size 6 fat just because like they have love handles is offensive to me. So like I think that there's like levels to it, but it depends on the person. I prefer to call myself curvy. I think that that's a good word. It's not offensive to me, but I think everyone has their limits depending on the experiences that they've gone through.
I was going to say that my relationship to the word is like kind of like circumstantial, right? Like you can tell when somebody is like weaponizing it and when it's used to just like describe a person. So I don't think that the word fat is bad. I think that people need to adjust their like definitions of what it is, you know what I mean? Maybe get more real about it, because it is definitely like weaponized. Like when somebody, like typically like the experience when somebody calls you fat is not like a positive, happy one in my experience. Like I personally have never had like a positive experience when somebody's like, oh, she's fat, because it's like, but what is that? Like, am I? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you start to like, it's like a whole thing. It also contributes to a lot of like, you know, like eating problems and all that stuff. So like, that's like my relationship with it. Like after somebody told me I was like fat or like chunky or something, like just like in a negative way, I was like, okay, so like that automatically means that like now I need to eat less and be smaller, you know, because it just felt like this person was trying to hurt me with it, you know, or like, if you're fat, you can't be part of the club. If you're fat, like we don't want you, you know?
So I think Amanda was the one who brought this up, where some people are so scared of fatness and scared of what other people think and their opinions surrounding fatness. So what has your experience been like dating while fat? Like for me, like I know there's been men who have been interested in me, but are so scared of like what their friends think and blah blah blah, where they won't even like think of approaching. Like that's my experience, or like I won't get approached at all, things like that. So like kind of like what are your experiences while dating, and like how successful are you on dating apps, and are you seeing like what you want out of dating?
I think that I'm more sick, or I have been more successful on dating apps than I have been in real life, because I think there's an element of being bigger and especially being Black simultaneously, that, like you said, there are guys that are attracted to me, but it becomes then like a secretive thing. It's like they want to date you or sleep with you or like have a relationship with you in secret because they feel uncomfortable, you know, courting you in a public space, or like introducing you to people that they know, which, like, granted, I wasn't actually looking to have like real relationships with these men anyway, so not that I wanted that, but you know, having friends of mine, most of them non-Black, women of color or white women who were skinnier than me, and you know, we would go to bars, we would go to clubs, and they would get approached by men. They would be offered free drinks, you know what I mean? You want to dance, da 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 da. And I would never ever be approached, you know what I mean? Or if I was, it's like, you know, a 60-year-old Black dude on the street catcalling you, or like, you know, like a you know, an old geezer on the train saying something gross to you, you know what I mean? Or like something that's inappropriate, or like a breach of, I don't know, that it's always something that's secretive or inappropriate. It's never something that's like a respectful, like I'm coming towards you and I'm actually approaching you because I like you. It always has to be something kind of insidious. And I think that a lot of men, they are picking people not necessarily because of their attraction to them and their connection with them, but because they want, we've talked about this on previous episodes, they want a trophy wife or a trophy in general. So the woman that they're with represents them and their status and their prowess or whatever they're trying to prove or whatever. So having a Black girl who's, you know, a size 12 or a size 14 on their arm doesn't represent to them that, you know, that they've made it or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, which is problematic on like many different levels, but that's definitely affected my dating life and my sex life in a really telling way, which is just unfortunate because I've had guys come to me later after the fact, like months, years later, and be like, oh, I really liked you, but I was afraid to say something or da 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 da. And it's like, well, you know, that's your own insecurity that you're projecting onto me. I'm not actually insecure about my body. I'm very confident in myself. So, you know, that's not actually my problem. So, Like, that's unfortunate because I probably would have given you a chance and you blew it, but you know, time heals all wounds. Not my problem.
Yeah, I feel like I can relate to that in a way where, okay, so like I have always been somebody who like fluctuates in weight. And especially like years ago when I like did have problems with eating, I was very much like the slim, thick type. You know what I mean? Like I was skinny, but still had like, you know, a little something. And I noticed that I got a lot more attention from people when I looked like that. So, and also like, yeah, especially I feel like sometimes being a Black woman, like people do like sexualize you in a way that's like kind of like, especially if you're thicker, like, I don't know, it's just, yeah, I notice people aren't necessarily trying to like get to know me, you know? It's more about the sex aspect of it, which I'm definitely not getting what I want out of like my dating life right now, because I feel like the like, yeah, what I said, like people are not trying to get to know me, which is, I think has to do with like how I look, you know?
Amen and amen. Come on. Hey,
Yeah.
did you want, wait, were you finished? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm finished. Go ahead.
I don't even know where to start. So it's like the first time I actually became like interested in dating, I was always nervous because of how I looked. And I was afraid that it would like affect me in the long run. Same thing, I would go out with my friends and I'm like, we're in the mall, we're at football games, vacation, and everyone's getting approached. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, and I strictly remember being called the designated ugly fat friend. And it's like things like that would make me kind of like, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should be on the. So the first time I actually put myself out there and was talking to a guy, I strictly remember him also saying like, you're not kind of my type. You're a little on the bigger side than what I'm used to. And it was things like that that would make me like uncomfortable within the dating scene. So
Yeah, just like Mina said, we were like at the football games together, like, and it at a certain point you start feeling like so down about it, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep going because you know maybe this will be my time, right? And everyone says like don't put your worth on a man and stuff like that, and it's hard to do that when everyone else is getting approached, and the only indicator of like who looks good and who is bad is that men approach you. And like, so I'm just sitting here like twiddling my damn fingers at a football game, like watching the football game because everybody else is talking to somebody else. And then what Chanel was saying about like, I think the term is Dove, like designated ugly fat friend, like, listen, I know all the references. So, but I just think that's something very interesting because like Amanda was saying, I sometimes like skinnier friends will not understand, like they'll try to empathize, but they won't understand. And like a couple weeks ago, me, Amanda, and a couple of our other friends from high school got together. And my friend Lizzie, like she put it this way. So they were all talking about like all the skinnier girls were talking about how like it's not that fun to be approached and like how like girl, you don't want these men anyway, blah, blah, blah. These men aren't it anyway. And the thing about it is, my friend Lizzie, she broke it down like this. She was like, there's 10 guys who approach you, right? At least one of those guys is gonna come up to you respectfully, gonna actually get to know you. And you'd probably give him your number, even if it's just to hook up with him or whatever. But for like people who look like me, if there is a man who comes up to me, he's a 40-year-old man, like Steph was saying, who I don't want, you know? So like, it's never those experiences, it's never the same realm of experience. But switching gears, so we talked a lot about how we don't know whether it's because you know you're Black or if you're fat or if it's a combination of both. And I went to Howard, so I kind of like have been most of my dating life post high school has all been in predominantly Black spaces. But I just kind of wanted to know from you guys, how has the experience of being specifically Black and plus size in a white space, how that has affected you? And like, how do you think, and I could just share how it's different in a Black space, but I want to hear from you guys and things like that.
I would kind of like step back for a while and then I would like try to make myself something that I wasn't so that I would be more appealing to other people. And then that's where I kind of lost myself. Then I actually got into a relationship And the guy still didn't like me for what I looked like. And it was like, well, you need to lose weight, or you need to go to the gym, or maybe you shouldn't be eating that. And same thing you said, maybe your insecurities are a reflection of of yourself, and you're projecting them on me. And I was the dummy for accepting it and trying to change myself for someone else. So.
A word. Let me tell you something. I had to take notes because I have so many areas to hit on. Because I'm like that. Here we go. One thing I wanted to comment on the last part. Also, when people call fat people fat, like, it's derogatory to me. And then I thought about something, how relatives be like, oh my gosh, you getting skinny, oh sis, come, ah. They don't be like, oh girl, you getting fat, ah. They don't do that. They don't do that. So I just wanted to point that out. But so one thing about my experience, I vividly remember in high school going to football games, and me and Morgan would go together. So I feel like we're here. And people like my best friend getting approached, everybody else is getting approached, and I'm just sitting there looking stupid all the time. And this was an all the time thing, but I also constantly went because my friend was like, come on, go. But they never truly understood like why I didn't like going, because I would always be that friend that was left out. Always, never failed. And I have a note on here. I never knew if it was because I was fat or if I was Black, because I'm also dark skinned. So like one thing too that really put a damper, and when I'm saying this, my high school experience was not bad, but because I, was bigger, I went through more stuff. I was never asked to homecoming. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. We had to be asked to go to homecoming. I was never asked. And that also played a really big damper on my high school experience. I was really sad. I'm like, I don't have a homecoming. I would like to go to somebody else's. I never got the chance. I didn't have a prom date. And that played a big role in my self-esteem. For a point in time, I didn't even want to go to prom. I didn't want to go to prom because I felt so bad that I was so ugly or so unworthy that I wasn't even going to have a prom date. The last thing I wanted to hit on is sex life. This is something I feel like affects us more in college and like also post-college, because men see you as something to just do. They don't see you as something to, somebody to cherish, someone to have. And although like when I have my line sisters and my friends constantly talking about their active sex lives, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. And I can't join in on the conversation. I can smile and laugh like, okay, girl, do that. I don't have that. And like, it hurts. I feel like they don't always realize how much that hurts me to not be able to join in and stuff like that. Sorry. So yeah, that's how our experience been going.
I've always, like, my parents raised me to have thick skin. It was like, you are who you are and you can't help that. So you're just gonna have to roll with the punches. The biggest downfall in having that thick skin is you don't want to come off as the angry Black girl. Mm-hmm. And that's always what I used to get from having that thick skin. It was like, if I don't, like, y'all gonna either like pick one. Like, it used to be so hard to always have thick skin just because I'm like, I don't want to come off as something that I'm not. Like, it became like really difficult to kind of balance the both.
About survival, like, you can't really be sensitive, right? So you have to kind of just like, I don't know, there was like a, like being, I don't know, something about growing up around white people kind of like, in a way, I don't know, it in a way gives you a freedom to do that, because like, I don't know, white people be sad too, you know what I mean? Like every, it's okay to be a little emo sometimes, right? And like, it always seemed that I didn't fit in with Black girls because I was too sensitive, right? And it was like, so that's why I had more white friends, because I could be myself with my white friends, because we were all just like, I don't know, there's something about whiteness that gives you a freedom to just be a girl, right? Like a little girl. So I don't know, like I can relate to that though in a way, because as I get older, I'm realizing, okay, no, you have to be smarter than that. Like you kind of have to put your wall up a little bit, because people are going to try and take advantage of you for, it's like, also like being surrounded by white people. I've dated a lot of white men, and white men love Black women, right? But they don't love Black women. Like, so you have to know which ones are the ones that actually love Black women. So you have to put your guard up a little bit and be more Black. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, wait, more, do you want to go off? I apologize. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I wrote down, sorry, I have to take notes while as I go. At my PWI, I noticed that a lot of Black guys really do not go for white women. I mean, Black women. So that's already a struggle within itself because like my own people aren't really interested. So that hurts. Also, I prefer like any type of man who, generally wants to get to know me, but it does not feel like they feel the same way back. One thing I like, how Stephanie said, um, people are so worried how your relationship looks to the outside world. People put on like a front. I agree. People put on a front, so that's really sad. And the last thing I just want to say, Black women were the most this, the most that, but we're the least accepted. And that hurts. And that hurts, especially in the dating scene while being a bigger woman.
For me, so like because I went to school at HBCU, the focus wasn't on Blackness. Like we're all Black, all the men here for the most part, they Black women, like it's all that. But and I think I said this in a show before about, I was watching the Misogynoir episode the other day. And it's about how like here they only date the same type of woman. Or like you, at least in my view, like that type of woman was never me. It was never what I looked like. And I never saw guys that I was interested in their dating history. If I'm not going to approach a guy, if in your entire dating history, if I know the girls you dated on campus and not one of them looks like me, then I know that's not the situation I want to be in or somebody I want to go for. So like at my school, it was less about, oh, is it about whether I'm Black or is it a fat? It's that it's all about me being fat. And that's the entire reason. And it seems like, and in those situations, people love to act like being a bigger person is something that's completely in your control. And so you start to think like, oh, it's my fault, like that I'm not getting approached, or it's my fault, like, oh, let me do this, that, and the third. And I think that's where it like becomes so harmful in itself, which I think is crazy. But
yeah, I could piggyback off that because like as somebody who is just a thicker person, especially, okay, and it also like starts with my family too, because I'm like one of the bigger people in my family as well. So it started at home, right? And then when you go outside, you realize, oh, I'm not like the preference, you know what I mean? Like, so you feel like, okay, this must be my fault. People always make it seem like, I remember being young and like one of my family members, like, telling me I needed to like diet and like really little, like I'm saying like, elementary school, middle school, that I needed to like go on a diet because I was like getting too fat or something. Like my dad always had like issues with fat phobia. He'd always say he like couldn't stand fat people. Like it's just like a lot of that I'm surrounded by like growing up. And then like also it's coming from home and it's also coming from like, school and like my friends and stuff. So yeah, like you just realize that, I mean, it could be because you're Black, but a lot of times it's because you're like a little heavier or whatever the case may be, or you don't look like the Eurocentric, like beauty standard. So yeah, I couldn't help being the way I was. I tried to like, diet, I restricted my eating, and I did get like really skinny, but it just, I look at pictures from back then and it didn't look right. Like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't look good. I thought I looked good, or like, I don't even know if I did think I looked good back then because it was just a whole thing. I had like issues with that. But like, I guess I was getting more attention from people back then. So I thought I looked good, or that was my only indicator of if I looked good or not. And I didn't look good. I looked like very unhealthy. You know what I mean? I was just not meant to look like that. I'm meant to look how I look now. So it's like, people do really make it seem like it's your fault, like it's something that you could change it, when it's literally just your genetics. Like there's nothing I can do. to change how I look right now. Like, I mean, I could do things, but I don't think that would be healthy, is what I'm saying, you know?
We've brought up family a couple times, and that's, that's perfect because that goes right to my next topic. For me, one thing I've always, like, I heard every time I came home was like, "Oh, that freshman 15 got you, huh?" Excuse me, what did you say? Oh, okay, all right. It looks like yours never left, but whatever. Um, so for me, like, it was always like family members, and that's where I would put the internal pressure on myself, because it would always be family members who'd be like, "Oh, you're getting kind of big, like like you need to start losing some weight." Like my mom, like even like she doesn't do it intentionally, but she's still like, "Oh, you haven't been to the gym in a while, I see," like that kind of stuff. Like you're just like, oh, maybe like if my mom is the one who's telling me this, or if my grandma is the one who's telling me this, then like it must be true. There must be something wrong. So I just wanted to kind of like ask you guys, like what experiences have you had with family members perpetuating fat phobia, like in your own houses, and kind of like how that affects your dating experience? Because in the same breath, they'll be like, "So how come you don't have a boyfriend?" It's like, what do you mean? What do you want? So like kind of like both of those things.
I could totally start because I have so much experience with having like my family being fat phobic, and like also making it seem like, being thicker is like the worst thing. Cause like I, again, would not consider myself a fat person or a fat woman. Like I don't, like, not that that's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that somebody would look at me and describe me as a fat person. Like maybe, I don't know, that also ties into like, eating disorders, body dysmorphia and all that stuff. But like at home, it's always like, it started from when I was young. And also I think it's an issue that I inherited like from my mother, because she always had issues with like her like being curvy, and like even still to this day she's like, "Oh, I need to get back in the gym, like I'm getting so fat." And guys, like my mom is like so gorgeous, like she is like, I'm like, how could you say that about yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like so at home it's very much like, yeah, you need to work out, because my family is a very like health nutty type of family. Like everyone like eats really well and like works out and stuff, and I'm like very much not that. So that has been my experience, and the way that it kind of like bleeds into the dating life is like, I mean, you're home and your family's telling you you're not good enough. So I feel like when you go out to date, you sort of subconsciously choose people who also are kind of like critical of you in that way, or like don't really like that you have to work to get their love, you know what I mean? Because you feel like at home you have to work to get your love in so many different ways, like whether it be like being skinny enough or whatever, and then you go out into the dating world and that's how it bleeds in, because you don't know, you feel like love is conditional, you don't understand that like it doesn't have anything to do with that. You just have to you just have to be yourself. But yeah, I mean that's just my
I
experience.
think what you said is it, because I think as a bigger girl, and I mean my weight has, like you said earlier, my like my weight fluctuates a lot. So like, throughout the course of my life, I've been fat, and I mean just now, even when I was home for like 2 months after, like during the quarantine, like my mom and like friends of hers were all being like, "Oh wow, you've been losing a lot of weight. Like, what have you been doing? Y, Z?" And it's like, I had coronavirus and I almost died. So like, I like was time, and I like ate, sweets all the time. I started gaining weight and going through puberty a lot faster than most of my friends did. So like I had like boobs when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I got my period when I was like 10 or 11. So like, and I just started like getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I didn't have control over my body, it wasn't my fault, so, but my mom would make comments that I think she thought in her head she was trying to motivate me to be healthier, but like it was just straight up bullying, but I also era, there are just a lot of standards of beauty that are still super whitewashed, that like people from that era, they just all think like everyone needs to be skinny, everyone needs to have straight hair, everyone needs to look like as much like a little white person as possible. And, you know, thank God that I was just a really rebellious child. So my response to that was say, fuck you, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. But, you know, most children are not like that. Oh, no cursing. But, oh, okay. But most kids, you know, they take that in and they're thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me. And I have to change something about myself to make my parent happier and so that they will love me more. And then that translates into the dating life. I think that as a bigger person, as a curvy person, and as a Black woman, I think that in my dating life, I've always thought that I've had to compensate for my weight and for my color by being funnier and being smart and like being interesting to make up for the fact that, oh, there's something about you that like is unconventional, so you have to go above and beyond to prove that you need love, which is, you know, that's just a crazy thing to subscribe to, and it's also just not true. You know, like beauty comes in all different shapes and sizes, and also like if you're talking to me, you're probably attracted to me from the get, so you know I don't have to overcompensate for anything. But if you don't learn to love yourself first and learn that you're complete and whole on your own without needing anybody else's approval, of course you're going to be vulnerable to other people's perceptions of you. But you know, I think luckily, you know, like I mean my mom is like, I love her so much, but she also, you know, has her own struggles with her body image, that I think that she projected those insecurities about herself onto me because it was so unusual for her, especially from that time period, to see someone like me who is darker. My mom is Puerto Rican, so that someone who is darker and bigger and is confident in themselves. And she was kind of confused. She was like, why, you know, like, what is it that makes her so confident? It's like, it's not about my body and it's not about my color, even though I love my skin complexion and I love my body type. But that's just, you know, that just enhances the person that I am inside, which is the part that you should be getting to know and that you should be attracted to. But yeah, no more overcompensating for men. Absolutely not. That's the end of that.
That was amazing.
Not for y'all on her preaching.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Pastor Seth.
Sorry.
I wanted to say something because I've been quiet because you know I'm not a big girl, but Maya can tell you I used to be a size 12 and I used to be a lot bigger and I was over 150 pounds. I'm only 5'1", 5'2". But I lost over 30-40 pounds due to depression, stress, and mental illness. And I lost that weight in 2 months. So when people see me now, especially my family, because I want to bring it to family, I grew up a bigger girl and I grew up a size 12 and I grew up with hips and a big booty and boobs. And then one day I was a size 3. And I met Maya recently too. And you could tell like you won't recognize me if you see past pictures of me. And what hurts the most is that now my family says, wow, you got so skinny, and they praise it, thinking that I lost weight because I'm a yoga teacher or because of my eating habits. But they're not realizing that I was starving myself for 3-4 days at a time crying, or that I couldn't even eat the foods that I wanted to eat because my throat would close up, and that some people don't want to be skinny. And that now I get comments of, when are you going to gain weight back? But then when I was bigger, it's, oh, watch out, your stomach's getting kind of soft, because I was proportioned differently. So I didn't have boobs, but I had thighs and booty and a little stomach. And that's when it was okay if it looked a little more athletic, if it looked a little more model-like, if I was proportioned well. But if I gained 2 pounds more, it was, you got to start working out again. You're getting a little too big. It's cute if it's curvy. It's not if you're fat. And like the thin line of that difference but then also how our families feel comfortable commenting on our weights no matter what size we are. You're always going to be too big. You're always going to be too skinny. My mom calls me, can you eat some mashed potatoes? I can see your ribs. And I'm just trying to focus on eating 2 meals a day and drinking some water for my mental health. And that I think now I'm standing strong, telling every time I see someone from a family that I haven't seen in a while or friends I haven't seen in a while, Mina, oh my God, hey, how are you too? I'm doing great. Let's not compliment on our bodies. I think we need to stop normalizing the comfortability that they have to comment on our bodies, because I'm not skinny because Mina wants to be skinny. I'm skinny because I was going through something in mental health and mental issues. So even if you're bigger or smaller, I want everyone to know, like, you can stand up for yourself and your family and say, when they compliment or reject your body, saying, hey, can we not talk about other people's bodies? Because if we were talking about yours, this wouldn't be in the conversation right now. And then even talking about, like, yeah, you gained a little weight too. Like, I'm sassy, but I think people feel comfortable giving it to you maybe because you're younger, they've seen you grow up, but no one talks about health and how mental health affects your weight and how your circumstances affect your weight, how poverty affects your weight. So when people come at me, I'm living in a food desert. You got some food stamps or some money you can cash at me? Would you like to make my meal tonight? So I just hope that we all know that even on the other end, it families and people shouldn't feel comfortable talking about other people's bodies, period, because they don't know where that weight change, gain, loss, up, down fluctuations coming from, whether you're big because of health issues or you big because you big, sis, or you're small because that's just what it is. Your family should love you for you regardless and be more concerned with the person inside and you loving yourself. Because if we were to talk to our families the way they talk to us, we probably wouldn't have much conversations. So I hope everyone just starts to stand up for themselves when they say
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to touch on that really quick too.
So like, first, quick trigger warning to anybody who's watching, because it's feeling like we're gonna push more into like mental health and like eating disorders. And really quickly, I just wanted to touch on the fact that a lot of people don't think that bigger people can have eating disorders. Like my parents will be like, oh, she, like, we watch 600-Pound Life, and they'll be like, hey, she should just stop eating. And I was like, no, because bigger people can have anorexia and stuff like that. So yes. So I just wanted to give a quick trigger warning and then like say that bit. So sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was gonna say was I wish I was taking notes so I could like write everything down because you guys were making such good points. But yeah, the thing I wanted to say was that when I was like my skinniest, like I did not get any like, concern for my health and like my physical health from my family. There was like a mental health, like, concern from my family because I've just always had a history with that. But it was more so like until like when I started getting a little like, heavier, my grandpa was like, oh, diabetes runs in the family. You might want to watch your weight. And I'm like, but where was the concern when I was really skinny? Because like you can have diabetes and like, when you have diabetes, your weight can fluctuate very much like in that process, especially if it's untreated. So it's like, why would you be concerned now that I'm gaining weight, but not when I was like extremely thin for like, my proportions. And then also what Mina said about our like talking to our parents the way that they talk to us, like I think that's a big reason why like, we don't have these conversations, because it's like, I know I can't just interrupt a conversation. Like let's say my mom comes in the kitchen and is talking about, oh, I'm so fat, da da da. And my mom is not fat, like at all whatsoever. I don't know, Mina could verify because she saw my mom. She's not fat. Like she has like the ideal body type for like a woman her age, okay? And it bothers me that she always like calls herself fat and just like, it triggers me because I'm like, if you're fat, what am I? Like that would make me like very like unhealthily, like, you know what I'm saying? Like me and my mom are so, So it's like, yeah, if I were to interrupt her and say that, oh, I don't really feel comfortable with you talking like that about yourself, I think it would be like a problem. I mean, that's just like my mom personally, maybe, but like, I don't think that they would feel comfortable with like some of our boundaries. Like, I feel like, I don't know why parents do this and why like they comment on their kids' weights or just like their own weight or talk about weight in a negative way. But it feels like, I don't know, sometimes it feels like a power thing for me. I don't know if anyone could relate to that, like using weight as like a hierarchy or something, you know?
I feel like in my household, especially because I mean, Katherine is my sister. So my sister Kat is, you know, much skinnier than me. We're still both, I mean, we're Black and Puerto Rican, so the hips ain't going nowhere. Like, no matter what weight we are, we're still both very curvy, but she's taller than me. She's 5'11", and she has a naturally skinnier build than I do. And I'm 5'8", so I'm a little bit smaller. And I've always been curvy. I have big boobs. I have, I mean, I wish my butt were bigger, actually. It's not really where it could be, but it's wide. It's wide. I have Puerto Rican hips. I have like thick legs, calves, you know, I have a thicker build. And it's interesting because well, thank God my dad isn't hardly ever made comments. He's also a plastic surgeon. So that's another like layer to it that I feel like maybe having a plastic surgeon for a father should have made me a little bit more insecure about my body type. But I think seeing women who are older going in to see my father to like change, like to nip and tuck things, and me looking at them being like, you're spending thousands of dollars to like cut into your body to lose like 5 pounds, that like, you know, that like no one even really cares and no one is even really looking. Like maybe that actually deterred me from doing anything about it. But I think that there's just something about the mother-daughter dynamic where like, I don't think you can help it that like if as a mother you see yourself in your daughters. So, you know, my mom would say things where she would compliment my sister and be like, you look just like I did when I was younger. My mother was really skinny pretty much her whole life until she had my sister. Like even after she had me, she was still pretty like thin comparatively. And then after that, her weight changed. After my sister was born, her weight changed a lot because there were a lot of complications with the pregnancy and C-sections and, you know, like things that a lot of women go through. And I think on the opposite side, when I was gaining weight, she would say comments that were really offensive, but it felt not so much directed at me. It was more like she was insecure about herself and she was commenting on things that she saw within herself and was projecting that on me because maybe she didn't want me to turn out like her, or maybe she was just like, you know, I don't know. I think that there's something about the mother-daughter dynamic where like, there's like always this comparison that I don't even think she was conscious of, but like that created weird dynamics like between me and my sister, which we've talked about before, and about the way that we were seen by other family members in outside of the home that, you know, made lasting impacts on you know my perception of how I'm viewed by other people. But I think once I realized that it was a lot less about me and how I looked and a lot more about her own, you know, like dealing with her body changing.
Been taking notes on what you guys are saying, what you ladies are saying, and it, yeah. One thing is, yeah. One thing, how my experience was, I remember when my dad and his mother would go and like buy me clothes. They would always take me to the women's section. They would never take me to the kids section. And like, I can fit the kids' clothes. I just fit the kids, you know, the bigger kids' clothes. So why are you taking me to the women's section? Why are you buying me this big coat? I used to walk around with huge coats. I never really had a coat my size because they thought I was that big. And I would go home and tell my mom, I'm like, they took me to the women's section again. I'll be really, really sad. And that I feel like that's where confidence plays in as well. Because they treated me like I was the biggest person they ever saw, my confidence went down the drain. And I feel like that's also why I still struggle with confidence today, is because of, you know, how they would treat me. And that's, you know, I just felt so huge. I'm just like, wow, I can't fit anything. I can't do this, da, da, da. And the thing about it is, like Maya said, I don't consider myself fat. And, you know, it just circles around. I would try to starve myself. There was a point in time, I think last year, I still have in my closet, I bought weight loss pills off of Amazon. like it had got that bad because I just felt so bad about myself because they made me feel so bad. And I would take them and I would get really, 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 really sick. And it's just like the lengths that we would take to please our family and to make our family feel better about ourselves. And it's just not healthy. Two, trigger warning, maybe. I got my boobs in the 1st grade. My boobs came in bright and early. God said, could bring it on in. And then I got my period in the 3rd grade. And I felt really bad because the thing is, I didn't know what a period was. We didn't have that talk yet. I was confused. I was bleeding. Yeah. And like that just also took my confidence down. I was like, and like, what's going on, God? Like, what's going on with me? It was because I was a bigger child. I was rough. It was because I was a bigger child. I was developing more, developing faster. And yeah. I think I have one more thing. My family members always talk, and my aunt, rest in peace, she passed last year, but we were really, really close. And she always said, where your little boyfriend at? Where your little boyfriend at? And I'm just like, baby, men don't do that. Men, we don't, they'll see me and they'll look at my friend, so like it doesn't. And I feel like that also, and I know she's my aunt, she's just trying to be funny, playful, because that's the woman she was. But that also took a load off my self-esteem because I'll be like, no, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have a partner, I don't have anybody, and like these conversations just go on and on and on and on year after year, and I had nothing to show for it. So yeah, did you want to?
Like Amanda literally unlocked a memory in my head when my mom's favorite store was Kohl's, still is. Like she could run up a bag. We were buying swimsuits for vacation. They took my sisters to the little teen section. They actually took me to the maternity section to buy a swimsuit. And I was like, she's like, well, you need the extra room. But I never really like think about how stuff like that can affect a person. But I was told that I was obese. I was either 12 or 13. And I was like, I look in the mirror like, really? So I would start seeing things that wouldn't necessarily be there. And I have seasonal depression and I'm an emotional eater. So I like to eat. So it doesn't help that when I'm sad, I eat even more. So I low-key think of quarantine as a blessing and a curse because we were all in the same situation. And what I did was eat. And my parents would talk about it. And it was just kind of like, we ain't got no big people in our family. You ain't supposed to be eating all that. And it's just like, I took that as my opportunity to actually speak about it. And I literally don't regret any minute of it. I broke down everything from how I felt from when I was younger to now. And it's just like, you just can't say things like that. You don't understand how much power your words have and how that hurt me growing up. Like that really did hurt me. And it low-key still affects me today, but I'm growing from it just because I was able to talk to them and have that conversation and let them know that I get it, I forgive you, but it has to stop. Like you can't make a comment on my weight every single time you see me. You already talked about how bald my head is, but let's move on.
Come on, words are spells. Say that one more time.
They really are.
Say that.
The fact that I literally let how they view me change how I view myself. And I'm like, I'm way too young to be thinking about, like you mentioned that your father's a plastic surgeon. I used to, when I was in 8th grade, I used to look up how much surgery would cost. And I'm like, oh, when I turn 18, I'm going to get my stomach flat. Like that was my goal. Like that shouldn't be your goal when you're 13 years old, trying to figure out when you're going to have surgery so that you can be skinny.
No, because why is gastric balloon in my search history from 2 weeks ago? Definitely had a lot of the same similar experiences. Baby, I stopped shopping at Justice when I was 8 years old. I wanted to walk around with a little monkey on my t-shirt too, but baby, mom was like, no, we're gonna go to Nordstrom Rack. It was right next door to each other. She's like, no, we can't go there anymore. But the reason I was talking about the eating disorders things is because I didn't realize that I had an eating disorder or something adjacent to it until I was explaining what it looks like to my friend, to one of my guy friends. And I was like sitting in the car and I was like, wait. I was like, wait, that's true. Because for me, it goes one or two ways. So like a couple months ago, I wouldn't eat for like 2 or 3 days. Or like I would just, and then the only time I ever saw weight go down is when I wasn't eating. Like, don't get me wrong, like for a while, like I was in the gym every day, 2-3 times a day. I had a trainer, meal plan, all that stuff. And like, but I sometimes I would just not eat or like go 6-8 hours without eating. And that's the only time like I would get smaller and like people would comment on it and stuff like that. But like, and that was just like a month and a half ago. And then through quarantine, I literally gained like 30 pounds. So I'm seeing myself at the biggest I've ever been in my life. And that just makes me sadder. So like I eat more because of it. And now like I'm just sitting and I'm like eating and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting bigger and I'm just nothing I can do about it. And so like learning to get past that and learning to break the mold of like what people say and like what people think from like when the time you were like 7-8 years old is something that like we can talk about it in the past, but when I tell you I literally looked up how much it would cost to get a gastric balloon yesterday, like it's something that people don't realize is an ongoing effect and things like that. But to go on to our last topic, just wanted to put that out there. But like, so I think the presence of Instagram and like Twitter and like social media and like images of what is attractive and stuff like that, I think that plays a really big role in today's fat phobia. And like, especially with, people talk about how men be in their DMs. My DMs are the Sahara Desert. My stuff don't look like that. My likes don't be running up like that. Like, so I like kind of like what y'all have seen on social media and like how people treat bigger women or bigger people in general on social media versus like, because first of all, bigger men, I see them like, be like, yes, you got it, whatever, you're great, love teddy bears. And like bigger women, they're like, girl, don't post anymore. So kind of like, what do y'all see on social media and like how is like what you see relationships happening via social media and how that intersects with bigger women? I hope all of that made sense. It was kind of a word vomit.
I've noticed that a lot of people treat bigger women like it's like a fetish. That's what I've seen, and I just think it's weird. That's not the first thing that I noticed, but it's like I keep seeing it more and more often. And a lot of I have a friend who's maybe probably about the same size as me. She is very active on Twitter, and the amount of DMs that she gets from men and the things that they say will make you sick. And it's just like it sounds like a fetish. So I think that's one of the first things that I see. I think, yeah. And then the second thing, I have gotten into this mood where I only put positive things on my timeline. So a part of that ended up being I can't follow all the little Instagram models. I can't follow all I have to surround myself with what I want to see. So I just removed all of that because it's just like it's half of it's irrealistic on one hand. And then on the other, it's like it's not achievable for me. I know that I will never look like that.
Mm.
So I can acknowledge you are beautiful, but I know that's not for me. And especially when people make those comments like, oh, I want to be just like her. You know, she bought that. That's not natural. It's okay to be natural. And then I also hate when people shame the natural bodies on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is how you were born. Like, I get it. If you don't like something, it's fixed. That's your personal decision. But don't shame other people for not wanting to do the same. That's why I love Lizzo, because she don't care. She really don't care.
Yeah,
I would say something about Lizzo. Just from an outside perspective, I feel like, and I want to ask you this, like specifically, Amanda and Shay and everyone else. I feel like big women are loved on social media, but then hated on the streets. Like they love it, like big girls, like titties, ass, thighs, say it, like shake it. But then those same girls, like my friends, that's not how they're getting treated going out. That's not how they're getting treated when we're walking and there's a group of men. You know what I mean? That's not how they're being treated after they start dating someone. That, you know what I mean? Like after the fetish stage and getting to know and the
Mhm.
sexiness, then it's like, are you gonna get a shit? It's like it's not sincere and genuine. It's literally skin deep. Or and I see some of my bigger friends, like everyone else is so confident online being big, but then I still see my friends struggling to be themselves and confident being big online. So I just want to ask that in whatever way, if you guys feel that way.
Y'all ever see those accounts where the men are like, oh, I love me a big girl, or that's what a woman look like, and blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm only dating a big girl, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, do you want your followers? Is that what it is? You want those likes? Is that what it is? Because y'all don't be like this in real life.
There's stuff, Shay. I mean, like I said before, my dad's a plastic surgeon, and it's a little different because my dad's from Chicago. I'm from Chicago too. Most of the women that go into him are usually older and like have had children and are trying to like just kind of, you know, get like a little bit of lipo to just like you know, just have a slightly flatter tummy. It's not usually something where they're trying to completely reconstruct their body. However, especially now that I live in LA and I see it all over the place, to see white women specifically surgically change their bodies to look like what Black women naturally look like, to have big hips, big butt, big boobs, tiny waist, and have it be just like so anatomically like crazy. Like they literally look like an hourglass, but just like it's like it's like the waist is so tiny. It's like the thighs don't even exist, but they're holding up these bowling balls of cheeks. It's like, that's not even gonna be able to uphold that weight. But regardless, it's really offensive to me. And I call Kim Kardashian a minstrel performer every day. And I know people don't like that, but to me, she's a minstrel performer. To see her literally being paid money to have this body type that she's completely gotten constructed to look basically like a mixed Black woman, and then actual Black women and women of color who naturally have that body type that comes with thighs, that comes with a little bit of love handles, that comes with a little bit of extra fat, because that's what you want. If you are expecting a woman with big boobs and big ass, she's gonna have a little extra meat on her bones. That's what you wanted. To have the real thing in your face and you're demonizing her, but then you're uplifting a woman like Kim Kardashian or Kylie Jenner, to me is just laughable. And to see that on social media, I mean, I don't follow any of those people on social media because I can't look at it, but especially to be in Los Angeles, and like people say to me all the time, like random people will come up to me and be like, you look so unique. We've never seen a girl who looks like you. And I'm like, no, you have seen a girl that bought the blueprint of what I look like naturally. And she just, you know, she edged out all of the, you know, what is it called? Stretch marks and the cellulite. So she just looks like a balloon. But that to me is so offensive. That's just offensive to see. And I think that the one cool thing about social media is that because you don't get to see the kind of representation that represents girls like us on television or in movies, I think that now a lot of the accounts that I follow are of curvier women and Black women and women of color who are beginning to enter the industry, that I can follow on my phone, and that's a form of representation that is uplifting to see. And like, I went to school in New York, so a lot of my friends were models or like doing model gigs on the side, like doing curve modeling, and I like was asked to do curve modeling things when I was in New York. So like, it's good to see that that's starting to change, but even then it's fetishizing and kind of tokenism. Because I remember I went to a shoot one time for a boutique in New York that I won't name because I don't want to get in trouble because my friend still works there. But I modeled for them, but then they gave me like, oh, you can get free clothes from the store after, you know, the shoot. And then I went back to the store to get clothes from the store that I modeled for, and they don't have anything in my size. And I'm like, so you're going to use me as the face to advertise for your store, and I can't even shop there. So that's false advertising, no? Like, you know, so I think that the industry has has a lot of space to catch up to, like they need to catch up to just where people are. Like, I think the average size for women is a size 12 or 14 in the United States. So it's just strange that you would not market to the average woman. Like, you know, like, why would you want to lose money and lose business?
Idea. I think white women are so attracted to what's on a black body that when they put these clothes on black women, we're still not their target audience. There's white girls looking at Stephanie saying, wow, that outfit is so hot, so sexy. And then all they do is go to that store where their sizes are there because they want to be Stephanie, but not black. They want to look like that, but not, but not, sorry, I got told to put my camera on. So is that they're using black bodies, but their target audience is still white. It's the weirdest form of digital blackface capitalism, like marketing technique in the world. Let's use this black body because white girls are going to see that and want to be that. But if a black girl were to come into the store, her size is not there. So it's not for us. It's not because they want to sell to black women. It's not because they even care about black money. They don't care about us at all, but they care about how much we sell for them. They care about how we look good in marketing campaigns. They care about how it makes the guilt of other white consumers feel less guilty if they're buying for something that has a black face on it, but has nothing other than that. And that is disgusting.
You better speak on it. You better speak on it.
A word, honey. Like,
but the natural body thing, like it gives, especially when it comes to dating, it gives men, because they're dumb, like it gives them this perception that women, like I know a girl whose body type is the exact same as the one Kim Kardashian modeled for, like bought, like that, like she saw the picture and she said, that's the one I want. Like you know when men go to the barbershops and they got all the little pictures, like she picked my friend's body type off the picture. And my friend, she has love handles and she has things like that. So men expect but women with body types who look like Kim Kardashian's body type to be flat and smooth and blah, blah, blah. So when you get a natural body with a woman who got as much ass as Kim Kardashian injected, that comes with something, with some thighs with some cellulite, and it comes with some, you know, like tiger stripes and things like that. And so men, and I've seen other people expect your body, like they are so disgusted by natural bodies because they think that this is what this body shape is supposed to look like. But I did want to wrap it up because, you know, gonna love past the time limit here. And I just wanted to ask, like, kind of like what you've learned about dating from your experience with fatphobia and things like that. I know I personally learned I'm gonna just be single for a while. Yeah, I mean, whatever. So that's what I've learned, but like, you know, what have y'all learned in this experience and things like that?
yeah.
Some people say, like, some people hate hearing, you just gonna have to wait for that person to come for you. Maybe it's not your time. I'm sorry, but I'm a true believer in that because I kept dating the wrong people. Literally kept dating the wrong people over and over and over. And I got tired of it. So I did exactly that. I'm going to wait for it's my time. And I am blessed enough to have a man that right now that literally accepts me for me. Like I've literally have never heard him say anything about me negatively, like ever. Like the words have never even come out of his mouth. So one thing that I learned is you literally have to wait because the people that you want and that you may be attracted to or that you want to look at you, maybe they really don't need to be looking at you because they're not for you. And that it took for me to understand that, to actually get a good man that actually loves me for me, to understand that. So if it's worth what I have now, oh, I will wait for years.
One thing I want to comment on that too, really quickly. Throughout this journey though, I learned that you also have to stop telling your fat friends, I'm going to split this up with romance. You have to stop telling them like, oh girl, you don't even want to be in a relationship. Like my relationship right now, like it's not even good. Relationships aren't fun. Dating men isn't fun. Having a sex life isn't even fun. Like, stop telling people that. Yes. Stop that conversation, because I want to experience life just like you do. Mm-hmm. And that should be okay. Mm-hmm. And that should be okay. But you constantly telling me like, oh girl, it ain't even that fun. No, I haven't got to experience it yet.
Let me figure that out.
I want to be able to figure that out, because what some people tolerate in relationships, what some people tolerate in sex lives, is something that I may not. So our experiences are going to be completely different. Also, aside from romance, one thing that I learned, that confidence is key, and you have to really love what you got. And it's really, 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 really difficult to do so, but you have to learn to love your body. You have to learn to love what you're working with. And it's so hard because society tells you not to. We talked about our families, they tell us not to. Some friends may not even tell you to, but obviously get rid of them. But yeah, but those are some things that I learned. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I learned to love myself, right? Like, you have to just love yourself no matter what. And it's like really the hardest thing to do, because you're Black and you're, fat or whatever you are, curvy, and everybody tells you not to love yourself. Like, everything that you look at tells you, or just gives you the feeling that you shouldn't love yourself. And it's really hard, but like, we all chose to be here, right? Like, if we're getting spiritual about it, right? We all chose to be here right now. And so everything that's getting thrown at us is stuff that we can handle. Like, we're meant to do this. So like, it doesn't still like, let's not romanticize it, right? But still, like, the ultimate goal is self-love. And I think that like people like us, or people who experience like fatphobia, are stronger, like, not everything that happens, you don't always have to claim it as like a negative experience. Like, it is, but it's always like teaching you something, right? So yeah, like, I think if I was skinny and, like more conventionally attractive or whatever, I don't think that I would have these viewpoints, right? Like, I don't think that I would be as tolerant. So yeah.
Since Maya brought up spirituality, to me, I mean, I think that the thing that it's taught me is to be able to defend myself and defend my body, which, just even apart from fatphobia as a Black woman, I feel like we have to constantly defend ourselves. And, to me, my body is, I mean, all of our bodies are gifts from our ancestors. And, as Black women, our ancestors have been through so much. They have survived so much just to be able to pass down this gift to us. And so I think it's our responsibility to treat it with the love and the care and the tenderness that it deserves, because it's so precious. I mean, as Black people, we understand how precious life is because people are consistently trying to take it away from us. So, I don't ever want to be ungrateful for my body and all of the ways that it's changed and morphed throughout the years. And our bodies are supposed to change. Our bodies are supposed to morph and change shape and evolve, just like we're supposed to as people change and evolve throughout time. So the idea that our bodies are supposed to stay in a constant shape, or like stay the exact same size or the exact same shape our entire lives, is just a foreign concept to me that doesn't make sense. But, with all that being said, we are so much more than just a body, you know what I mean? So like, the person that we are, that's, our souls, that's who we really are as people. And if someone doesn't see the beauty of you from the second that they meet you, then they don't deserve to experience all of the wonderful things that you could bring to a relationship. And like, we have so much value as women, as Black women. And also, like, I have more body and more loving to give because I'm juicier and I'm thicker. So, why would you not want more? More is better. I don't know. Like, but yeah, I think that just being fat and being thick and being curvy, like my body changing throughout my life has just taught me to be used to the fact that my body changes and fluctuates, and that's normal, and that it's going to continue to change, and I'm going to continue to change, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm really excited to see how I change and age and move throughout my life, because that's what's supposed to happen.
Exactly what Steph said. If somebody don't like you because you bigger, because you fat, because you thick, because you curvy, fuck them. Fuck them. Whatever. Fuck them. They can go to hell. Sorry, I don't know if we were supposed to curse today, but thank you. This is a great conversation. Thank you, Kat, for letting me host and let me be a part of it. And exactly what Steph said. If somebody don't like you because you bigger, because you fat, because you thick, because you curvy, fuck them. Fuck them. Whatever. Fuck them. They can go to hell. Sorry, I don't know if we were supposed to curse today, but thank you. This is a great conversation. Thank you, Kat, for letting me host and let me be a part of it. And
You did a great job, Morgan.
You did an amazing job, Morgan.
Thank
and
you.
Yes.
Good job, sister girl.
That's awesome.